And we're back. Welcome to Spirit Talk Podcast. This is Annette Dion. I'm the host and back again with our resident astrologer, the amazing Kathy Beal, looking all fall-like because we
Pumpkins
did.
from Dallas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
They're real?
that's a photo from, yes, it's real. I took that
I
photo,
thought
yes.
you were really telling me that you picked all those pumpkins and squash and put them behind you. Nowadays, you never know. We are meeting every couple of weeks on the new moon week. We've kind of formed a little bit of a habit. And this is a full moon week. And the full moon hits officially what day this week?
Friday, 29th,
The 29th. In the sign of
Aries.
Aries. Okay. So any Aries out there? We're going to just start by talking a little bit about what we do, what our businesses are, and then we'll jump right into the astrology and how it reflects what's going on politically. The moon today, I think, might be in Aquarius. Is that?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm glad I'm here. That's
Yeah.
about where we are these
It's
days.
the energy's felt a little erratic lately, which is very Aquarian. I'm Annette Dion. I am a psychic. I've been a psychic for 3 decades professionally, and I do readings and I do life coaching and I do classes, and I'm currently teaching a class on developing your psychic skills. Go to psychicannettedion.com to check that out. I have lots of room available to do readings, so take advantage of that. And we'll do a little promo at the end too. But I wanted to give Kathy an opportunity to let you know what she's offering. So ready? Have
All
at
right,
it.
I am a professional astrologer. I've been doing this for more years than I will own up to. My site is empowermentunlimited.net, and it is an overload of free resources. From the top page, you can get a weekly podcast. It's about 10 minutes long. The monthly forecast, a forecast for the new moon and the full moon, and those are all also recorded and put at my YouTube channel, Professional Aquarian. I have a Patreon where I give pretty targeted navigational tools for people and also allow them to ask questions every month. And from the top page of my website, you can find a link to Out of My Way, my talk about the Aries Libra eclipses of 2023, 2025. And we've got the second in the series coming up. We'll mention that one later today.
Alrighty. And personal astrology readings.
Oh, yes.
We have a schedule. People can schedule right on your website, right?
Well, you buy the session and then we haggle when it's going to be.
Oh, I see.
If
Okay.
you want to talk to me, you better do it soon because mid-October, I'm going to be out of pocket for a few weeks. So,
Oh no, you're gonna leave us?
going back to Texas. I'll have many stories.
But you'll still be available for the show?
We'll have to, I'm flying on the days of the show.
Oh,
so
okay.
we'll have
Okay, we can change things around, but currently we're scheduled to meet on the new moon and the full moon weeks. And if we have to change the day from Tuesday, that works for me. Okay. So, there's so much going on in the United States as per usual, and we've got a couple of eclipses coming up. Let's first start with this full moon. That's not an eclipse, but on Friday.
It's the runway. It's the runway to what's going on.
Okay, so it's like you're going on your trip, but you're just sitting in the airplane waiting to move forward.
So to put it in context, this eclipse cycle is rewriting agreements, contracts, and relationships. You might have been seeing some of that in the news, and it's pushing the emphasis much more to the individual end of the relationship seesaw. So the Aries full moon on Friday, ruled by Mars, is a big I'm not going to take it anymore moment. It's really empowering a whole bunch of people into getting into their own Superman or Wonder Woman mode and just if anybody remembers a movie from the 70s called Network, there was a TV reporter who kind of snapped on camera and told everybody to open their windows and yell, "I'm mad as hell and not going to take it anymore."
Oh, is that where that came from?
An epidemic. So that's
you've enlightened me. I did not know that's where that came from. I love that saying.
Yes. So it doesn't mean that you have to go slug people, but there is a really strong energy right now, particularly if you have something in the early degrees of Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. It's really firing that up of, Tom Petty singing Won't Back Down.
Yeah.
Fascinatingly, the SAG-AFTRA, which is the actors union that's on strike,
Mm-hmm.
has this full moon right on top of its sun, its entire being. Um, it's happening on the Mars action of someone who's just filed suit against Rudy Giuliani. So
Ooh.
you'll see that one particular presidential child has hit a point of and he's going to be in a really strong fighting back
He's
mode. And
mad as
so you might
hell when he's not going to take it anymore.
exactly. So you
Hunter.
might see that happening for yourself. Just no, no, no. And there's a real instantaneous and uh non-thinking energy in this. So stuff has been building up and you hit a point of nope, that's it, bam. And then this leads into what will be going on next month when both of the moons, the new moon and the full moon, are ruled by Venus instead of Mars. Venus, which is I call her the social director of the skies. Venus rules
Hmm.
creativity. She rules how we get along. She rules what we desire, what we value, money, things like that. So there's a
Hmm.
different vibe coming with the two moons next month.
Yeah, in October. So that's fascinating. A couple things come to mind about that. Um, so anyway, as far as personally, we can get to that point and it can be a real positive
Right.
because things have built up. So maybe it wouldn't be so like spontaneous. Maybe it would happen in an instant, the decision, okay, I'm going to change everything. But there's been a buildup on a personal level,
Yes.
right? It's just
Yes.
like, enough already. Let's change this kind of energy.
Right.
When you mentioned
And
the
this,
Venus, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this also ties into what's going on with the United Auto Workers. You'd asked me
Yeah.
to see if they have a chart. We just know what month and year they were formed. And fascinatingly, in the month and year it was formed, which I think was May 1935,
Oh, wow.
Mars, planet of action, was in Libra, which is the sign of reaching agreements, negotiating, and it's traveling opposite where this full moon is this
Oh,
week. So Mars during that month was in the sky activating the spot where the current full moon is about to happen. So there may be some kind of trigger or breakthrough or that's it moment with the UAW as an outgrowth of this full moon as well.
when I did a reading on it last night, I was actually surprised to see. I pulled three cards and I was surprised to see how huge of a shift it looked like it was going to be with the auto workers, where
Mm-hmm.
it was like, wow, this is really good for the United States, kind of a feeling. And it did kind of surprise me
Mm-hmm.
how big
That
it
was good.
seemed. But when you mentioned the Venus energy, what
Hmm.
popped into my mind was Taylor Swift and how a
Yes.
young artist who's mega successful has got a huge platform. I'm so grateful to see her using it responsibly
Mm-hmm.
and to support American democracy. What do you think, just astrologically, just maybe off the cuff? Do you think that that's going to be more powerful because of these Venus aspects in October?
Well, interestingly, I think this is an outgrowth of the long time that Venus has spent in the sign of Leo,
Hmm.
which is uncharacteristic. But we had a Venus
Yeah.
retrograde this summer, and Venus in Leo is strut your stuff, it's sparkle, it's claim who you really are,
Right.
and it's very, very showy and very dramatic. So it makes sense to me that female figures who are very public
Mm-hmm.
and in the arts are doing something that's having a huge impact. Barbie movie is tied to this as well. So I'm not surprised that she that Taylor Swift has done this. And unfortunately, I don't know her chart. I haven't had reason to look it up. But I would certainly see this as part of women or the feminine, or can't we all get along,
Mm-hmm.
moving into all this. And I just want to throw out one little fine-tuned uh, something about the eclipses that's really, really fascinating. These eclipses with Aries, with the Aries North Node, so we're moving into Mars-oriented, individual-oriented action.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Venus doesn't fall out of the picture. I mean, she rules the south node of Libra, but Venus is a factor in a whole bunch of the eclipses. The planet is part of it, and Venus and Mars are in harmonious relationships
Wow.
during many of the eclipses, including the one coming up on the 14th of October. But the very end of the cycle, in March of 2025, Venus and Mars are all right. I mean, it's the Paul McCartney Wings song,
Mm-hmm.
in the sky. Wee. So I don't
Hmm.
see this as people. I don't see this as violence taking over. I see this as individuals stepping up for their own, for themselves, and relationships restructuring and finding a way for people to see who they can work with and who they can get along with. But
Right.
there's a shift from the an old paradigm. Maybe a lot of people listening to this didn't do this, but there is certainly a segment of the population that has spent time trying to figure out in advance what's going to happen in a relationship, thinking it through, and
Mm-hmm.
couching actions based on what you think the other person wants or what you need to do to make it work. And that little paradigm going away.
The old traditional ways of relationships sounds like. It also
Yeah.
sounds a bit like with that Mars influence on, the Mars and Venus kind of together. It feels to me like that means that women will have more, like, is it Eros that we talk about, that energy of the fighter female?
That's Eris.
Eris. I always get those two
Eris.
mixed up. Eris.
Yeah, Eros is, one of the little cherubs running around.
Okay.
Uh,
I
one
get
of the
them
little
confused.
love beings, but Eros is like carnal love, and Eris is, I
The
think
f-
she's actually Mars's or Ares's sister, Ares. Ares. So
okay.
she's a sister of the god of war, and she's goddess of discord, and she's one of those, I'm not going to take it. Here we go, stir,
And it's spelled
Eris, Eris.
Eris. Okay. So that's what I'm kind of picking up from what you're saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Eris is kind of, I remember that it was like being aspected in my personal chart when I was out there really, really being an activist. Really
Mm-hmm.
like that energy. I'm not taking this. You're not going to be lying to me. You're not going to be cutting down these trees without being held accountable, that kind of a thing. And so it sounds like we're moving into that kind of an energy. And with the going back to the Taylor Swift topic, it it's interesting to me what she's being, of course, the extremists are like attacking her, saying her music is terrible and she's terrible. But all she's doing is getting people to register to vote,
Mm-hmm.
right?
How horrible.
She's not saying you have to vote for a Republican or a Democrat. She's just getting people registered to participate in a democracy. So you mentioned like, it's going to be hard for people to argue kind of with this energy because it's kind of like it should make sense. So I mean, in a perfect world.
In a perfect world.
So it feels like the feminine energy is going to be empowered by that kind of a fighting spirit,
Well,
right? Does it,
definitely not going into the corners,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
not
Which
again. Tom Petty won't back down.
right. Well,
That's
and I see a lot of going into the corners, working with the feminine that I'd like to see this shift. I really would. It's amazing how far reaching that old paradigm of women should be just seen and not heard. how much it permeates us, how like, through the generations, it wired in our, it's in our DNA. And that has to change. I mean, I just wrote a little newsletter this morning for Grassroots of Democracy. You may have read it, about how, it was a woman in Michigan who decided that the maps were unfair, the voting maps with the gerrymandering and redistricting and all that, and that Republicans kept winning when the popular vote was for Democrats, and more Democrats voted for Democrats, and then she kind of like shook the whole tree, and it all came tumbling down, and the maps got fairer, and now we have three very powerful women basically running the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably is similar
I would see that. Yeah, that
energy.
works. That works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So powerful women. Out of the corner, into the limelight we go, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of powerful women, she was in the back of my mind, and someone just mentioned it. Cassidy Hutchinson.
Yes, a request came through. There is no agreed upon birth year even for her. I looked around online, so no birth date, and there are several different ages floating around. She could be 25, she could be 26, she could be
Right.
27.
But that's
So
she's exemplifying what we're talking about,
mhm.
right?
Yes, yes. Oh,
Even
absolutely.
if you don't have her chart.
Right. No, absolutely. And we could probably go through, well, okay, at the latest witness who has come to the fore with the Mar-a-Lago documents cases is a woman who says that she got to-do lists scribbled on the back of classified
Unbelievable.
documents and handed to her. Again, I bring it up because it's a woman. And
Yeah.
please notice that the the judge in the January 6th case is a woman. The judge in the Mar-a-Lago documents case is a woman. The prosecutor in Georgia is a woman.
Oh
The
yeah.
prosecutor, the attorney general in New York State, a woman. And three of those, Fonnie Willis and Letitia James, and actually Judge Chutkan, have some astrological influences coming up that are really going to increase their effectiveness and their visibility. So whatever moment by moment news you hear about any of these cases, please keep breathing and know that there's major power, especially
Yeah.
next month, especially third half of the month, no, second half of the month in October for Fonnie Willis. Do not underestimate what that woman is capable
Yeah,
of.
she's a fighter.
And
Yeah. She's
it's
no
Viper energy. It
no
is Viper
nonsense.
energy coming to the
Yeah.
fore
Oh,
in that.
Viper energy, everyone.
Yeah,
That's
what this
good.
makes me think of, I knew years ago when I was still practicing law in Houston, I had a friend who was also a lawyer who did divorce work, and she was very short and she spoke very softly, and she was a Scorpio, and routinely people would just underestimate what she would do, and she would just very softly say, talk, engage, and then without her opponents noticing it, slip her little metaphoric knife right between their ribs and gut them. And
Wow.
do not underestimate what Fonnie Willis is capable of. Okay,
Did that
she's
woman have
got
sharp nails? Did she have sharp
uh
nails? The woman you're talking about? Because I met a divorce
no,
lawyer before, and she was like, "I need these nails," because wanted to
oh,
play the piano, and I was going to be her
funny.
teacher. And I'm like, "The nails got to go," and she's like, "I need them."
I could see that, but
Yeah.
no, not this woman. At any rate, and the reason I bring that up is that, well, actually, this is a little esoteric, but it's something that's going to grease the way for people. So just know this is what's going to happen. There is a harmony in potentials, a cooperative potential all throughout October of how we communicate, what our conversations are like, how we think, and how we're dealing with each other, and how we're actually using our actions. The three inner planets are traveling in ways where they have more than a fighting chance of getting along, meaning that we have more than a fighting chance of moving forward on things without having to have knockdown, drag out fights.
Oh, good.
And at least through about the 22nd, there's a real chance for civility and working things out. Now, that civility might be through clenched teeth or
Mm-hmm.
with all kinds of undercurrents and manipulation, but nonetheless, I it's going to be a crazy, crazy month,
Yeah.
but I think there's a lot of assistance for just step by step moving ahead
Hmm.
and not having the wind knocked off of you, out of you. That's the phrase I wanted. Yeah.
So we're actually going to cooperate.
Well, there's a
There's
might,
potential. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of possibility of coming to the table and discussing things.
How does the whole abortion issue fit into this, do you think? With women and, having that
Now, that is
extra
interesting
oomph.
because in the GOP chart, there's a big emphasis on using women and the underprotected, the unfortunate,
Yeah.
as sacrificial lambs and things coming to roost for that.
Oh my God, I was
So,
just reading about that. Have you read what they're proposing or the government's going to shut down?
no,
Go after the women, go after the poor, go after the people that are struggling, take their funds away, take away WIC, take away aid for education. It's unbelievable. It's like
well, there will
zero
be
compassion.
there will be consequences.
Right. It's like all the nurturing aspects of our society in America, they want to strip away. Anything that's helpful, anything that's compassionate. They
Anything that's a societal safety
Yeah,
net.
and it's pretty feminine, that whole nurturing aspect. We need to take care, and it's actually the definition of a real kind of Christian or, religious or spiritual person, right? And
How
they
dare
just
you?
want it, it's just like so extreme.
Well, Saturn is moving back and forth over Venus in the GOP chart, which is interesting. They have
Hmm.
Venus in Pisces, which when the GOP was formed, they were the anti-slavery party. So
Yeah.
that was there. And Mars is opposite. So they've got this inherent um, tension between masculine and feminine principles. And they've got this inherent tension between uh, this the same sort of thing that's going on now, lighting up all of the racist stuff that's going
Yeah,
on.
it's
I'm not sure.
certainly being highlighted. And just to be clear, I know this is really confusing and some people might not even know. But back then, um, Republicans were like Democrats of today.
Yeah, there's been
So
a
it was a lot of people don't know that. That's my experience talking to people. So like in the abolition movement, during that time, if you were a Republican, you were more apt to be, against slavery, right? So
mhm.
just so people know, that's what was going on then. So when the GOP started, which was what year?
I think it's 1854.
Yeah, right around that time. So the abolitionists were, Republicans. Um, so with the GOP chart, apparently you have it.
Hmm.
Um, and we definitely have to look at Kevin Marshmallow Jellyfish, hostage of the House McCarthy. I just keep adding adjectives. Uh, in relation to that, let me just give you my psychic sense about, and people of course have asked me to read on this repeatedly. Is the government going to shut down? And I kind of feel something like last minute, kind of, I call it the Hail Mary pass, where Kevin saves himself, relatively speaking, by not allowing the government to shut down, which would be devastating for the Republicans.
Oh yeah, and he'll
Prov-
pay a price for it by early January.
So I'm wondering if it lines up astrologically that that's a high potential situation that he would at the very last minute say, I felt like the Democrats would bail him out in a way. so the government won't
Well,
shut
this
down.
this particular full moon, the one on Friday, does affect his um feeling safe in the world, does affect his relationship with the public. Trying to think of how to translate this into something that's going to make sense. Also, his public standing, his public status is going to get hit in some big way. So maybe he's
Yeah.
energized. And again, it's the last minute, unpremeditated, bam, switcheroo moment.
Yeah.
The pressure could just become too much. But again, so then if that is what
He'll just
happens,
implode.
if that is what happens, something in his funding and his base comes to an end with the lunar eclipse that's right before Halloween. Now, it could still take a few months to play out. And then he's been having his Saturn return,
Mm-hmm.
and Saturn's going across his Saturn 3 times. So it's been there twice so far. And at the end of the year in early January, it goes across for the final time. So, like, reaping whatever he's been doing with himself since April
So
will happen
Saturn.
at then.
So he's in his Saturn return, which we've mentioned. I didn't know
Mhm.
that there's a Saturn, passing through like three times during that time.
It in his
Oh,
doesn't always happen. Sometimes Saturn just goes over your natal Saturn once. In his case, it's gone over it twice so far because it went over it, then it retrograded over it
hmm.
again, and it's going to sit, just so everyone knows, Saturn is going to sit at the beginning degree of Pisces for almost all October and almost all November. And then it starts scooching again. And once it starts scooching forward, it's going to make its final pass across McCarthy's uh, Saturn. Let me just double check, make sure I got those 2 months correct so that I haven't just sent misinformation out into
So
the
Saturn's
airwaves.
making another pass. By the way, thank you for those of you that are putting up our information, our contact, and everything. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Uh,
so the second half of October and all of November, it is sitting at 0 degrees, and then a 0 degrees Pisces. So it's going to sit there, and this is going to affect a lot of people. So those of you who actually look at people's charts, just
right.
notice that. And then it's going to move forward. It will go across Mitch McConnell's sun for the third time. It's gone over it 3 times. So um, late November, early December is a crisis time for him. And then by the end of the year in early January, Saturn will go over McCarthy's Saturn one final time. And there'll be like the final test of, have you been acting responsibly? How have you been using your power?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what about the weekend though? What about Friday? What about um, you
Friday,
know,
the full moon is on his moon.
and
So
and that
I,
would mean
I,
it's on his moon and the
in
moon will be in Aries, right? The full moon will be in Aries.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It will be trining his moon because his moon is in Sagittarius. So the moon will be in his house of money and values. And again, this is used just so people know I'm using a solar chart. I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
birth time, so I'm have his sun on the ascendant, and that gives completely valid information.
So it's a
So
pretty good. You have
so
enough to work with.
I had misspoken earlier. I said the full moon's on his moon. It is not. It is trining, which is like an unbroken current of energy, firing it up. There could be people really mad at him
Oh yeah.
there, and there will probably be very sudden action of a legislative nature. Oh, gee, really? Okay, so it is possible. I mean, astrologically, it is possible that what you read
Yeah, the Hail
will
Mary
be
pass.
happening.
That's what I call it. But I feel like it's coming from the Democrats. Like a little bit of energy of, okay, well, if you don't shut down the government, there's some kind of or maybe it's just that it's seen by his, Freedom Caucus, whatever the heck that means. It will be seen by them as siding with the Democrats or siding with Biden. Oh, I came up with a new
Mhm.
slogan.
Well,
Siding with Biden.
and that full moon is really close to Matt Gates's Venus,
We
which is
have
what
to
he
talk about
values
him.
and
We
how
have to
he
talk about him.
how he interacts with people. And his in his solar chart, that's in his 11th house, which deals with organizations, which is Congress. So that's his place in the House of Representatives. There may be some woman who comes out and says something. There may
Cassidy
be,
did last night. Did you hear the interview?
oh,
Cassidy came out with it last night.
that she didn't date him, she wouldn't date him.
Well, there was that, but then she also was recounting it. Maybe they were at Camp David or something. I don't remember where they were, but she was like in her cabin by herself, and Matt comes by and is like, "Hey, what's going on, Cassidy?" Something like, "Can I come in?" And there was no one else around, but Kevin McCarthy happened to come by at that time, and he was just like, "Knock it off, Matt." That's what came out. And
I
she
would
didn't date
imagine
him.
there's more. I would imagine there's more. All
Oh,
right.
yeah, because I keep
And
seeing him being in trouble.
I could see this being Gates pulling the trigger on McCarthy. All right. That's one way this could play out. And he's threatened to do it. But I want everyone to know that the solar eclipse on the 14th hits Gates's signature for power and money. So it's like whatever he is beholden to, there
Hmm.
is a reset button hit. So there could be something that leaves. Always possible
Something
under an
that
eclipse.
leaves something that,
Under an eclipse.
what would
I
you
don't know.
get? Well, let's throw some possibilities out. We want
I don't
him
know.
unseated and in trouble. Somebody's mentioning that he groped Cassidy also. Yeah, Damon saying that Matt also. Man, these men, God, and then who was the other one that got groped by him? Oh, Cassidy got groped by Rudy Giuliani. I think we're going to talk about Rudy today too.
You just say when.
Well, first I have to ask you if you can foresee. I know you're not a psychic, but you kind of are in a way.
I am.
Yeah, you can kind of predict what's going on and what's most likely to happen. From an astrological standpoint. So, do you think the government will shut down?
For a brief period.
What I got was that a few things would shut down, but it wouldn't be what the Freedom Caucus was threatening and all that. Like it will throw a little wrench in the works. But I don't see a full government shutdown by any stretch of the imagination.
I don't see it going for the whole month.
No.
Uh, but I would, especially with the power that Gates has to blow McCarthy up. And he astrologically, he's got that power too. So, because his Uranus, which is the disruptor planet,
Yeah.
is on McCarthy's moon. So he is like a constant thorn in his side.
Right. That must be some karmic stuff going on too, I would guess. So Matt, what is it that we said last time that Matt must have some kind of lucky aspect that he's not been thrown in prison by now?
Oh no, this is his relationship to power and money. He has Saturn and Pluto
Ooh,
conjunct
that sounds ominous.
in the sign of Libra. So there have been people, I don't know if there are people in courts, if there are people in the legal profession, but there's some kind of big money and power that's been backing him, that's been protecting him. I've always heard, I have heard, I do not know this as a fact, that family
Yeah, I've heard
has
that
been a
too.
factor. Family has been a factor. And I would imagine that his father is an extremely powerful figure in his life and elsewise.
I wonder what business they're in.
I don't know.
I think they might be in the billionaire category.
I will, but I'll also say that Uranus in the sky has been moving back and forth across uh, Chiron in Gates's chart, which is where you feel fundamentally wounded no matter what happens. And he's got Chiron in Taurus. I bet he's got body issues. He's got issues about money. He's got
Mm-hmm.
issues about self-worth and value, and they have been just irritated like crazy. So I think part of the acting out is absolute overcompensation on his part.
Right. Just for doing a kind of clairvoyant read on him, I feel like he's a shell. Like like he puts on this, he has this veneer of, I can do anything, but I feel like he's very afraid. Maybe he's afraid that the law is going to finally come down on him. But especially with these, I mean, if you ask me, he's a rapist. That's
I
just what I
wouldn't.
get. And I know it's a harsh word and it's a terrible
Well,
thing to bring up,
he
but I
has
get
he
that.
has Uranus and Venus in an absolutely tight trine, which is open current, and they're in signs that kind of indicate that there's the thrill of the hunt. He doesn't necessarily want
Right.
to like win a woman and have her by his side. He wants the
The
and there's an
hunt.
attack and a surprise and an
Right.
attack,
Right. He has that
vibe to it.
predator. He definitely has that predator energy. You can
Yeah.
see it the way his eyes are. It's just, I mean, I always laugh about it just to make light of it. Like he looks like a demon. He looks like your stereotypical, the pointy chin and the eyebrows. It's really creepy. He's a very creepy guy.
Can't we
And
say that about so many of these
and
people?
he and Trump seem very, very alike. Do we have Trump's chart?
Yes, of course. Hold
Okay.
on.
Let's take a little peek. I know. I'm trying to be cognizant of time, but
Come on.
we have talked about Trump a lot, and we have referenced October when we have been
All right,
talking
so
about
here's the
Trump.
deal with Trump in October. The solar eclipse in Libra, so new moon, supercharged new moon, October 14th. It's at 20 degrees Libra. There is another solar eclipse, a total one, in April next year
Hmm.
at 19 Aries. So almost exactly opposite. So whatever's going on in October is setting up other big action in April. Just have that in the back of your mind.
Hmm.
The eclipse is on Trump's lucky planet. It's on his Jupiter
Hmm.
in the second house. He has Jupiter in Libra, which has been part of what's brought him so much luck. He has Jupiter in Libra exactly trine Uranus and Gemini in the 10th. So he's able to unleash. That's the motor mouth of saying the most outrageous
Oh
things
yeah.
and continuing to get away, continuing to get away, continuing to get away. Well, this eclipse is on that, and the eclipse is exactly contacting his north node, his path of destiny,
Hmm.
and it's pulling in his sun and his moon as well. So basically, his entire internal wiring is in this. A solar eclipse is a very, if it hits you exactly, it's installing a new operating system. It's
Hmm.
hitting the reset button. And some think of what happens in an eclipse. You don't see the sun or the moon,
Yeah.
depending on which way it's going, for a period of time. There's like this darkness.
Hmm.
Well, um, something always leaves. Something always leaves. So I'd say that this eclipse on the planet that is responsible for his having gotten away with so much.
The April one or the
The
or
current the
October?
one
Oh,
the one
the
right
one
now is
coming.
setting a lot of stuff in motion, and then there's another round of "and I really mean it" coming from the skies in April.
Or what about the full moon eclipse in October?
The full moon eclipse in October is in the ninth house of legal proceedings, and it's wrapping up a 2.5 year process of financial money and resource
It's been
issues.
about 2.5 years. These
Mhm.
investigations.
And it is squaring his 10th house. I'm sorry, his because it's 10 degrees. It's squaring his 12th house Pluto in Leo. 12th house is where all the stuff is that you do behind the
The hidden,
scenes,
yeah.
or is hidden to you, like where your own self undoing occurs.
Hmm.
Pluto in the 12th house can be an indicator of big money deals that are hidden. It could be a signature for money laundering, it could be a signature for criminality. And so the eclipse at the end of the month, which happens right after the first trials in Georgia are scheduled to start. They're
Right, that's
scheduled
true.
to
On the
start the jury
23rd.
selection on the 23rd. So that ties into this. So we've got the Trump org proceeding in New York scheduled for early October that coincides
Oh,
with
right.
that eclipse happening on Letitia James's sun. So she's getting really powered up by this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the second eclipse, which is wrapping up all these money and financial issues happening as that second trial occurs. And it will be opposite some stuff in Fonnie Willis's chart. It will be and so it will be bringing some stuff that she's been
Mm-hmm.
researching for a long time to the fore. Lunar eclipses always have a huge revelation streak to them,
Right.
like the light is shown into the deep dark places, and you go, look, that was there. Oh my,
Yuck.
ah, let me
Gross.
run.
Yeah. So I have this sense about him that October is going to be like just really chaos for him. Just like I don't even know if he's going to be able to think straight. I don't know if he's losing his faculties, but I really do feel like he's going to just crack up.
Well, there's one other thing at the beginning of the month. He has like a 9 hour deposition that he's been told he
That could
cannot.
crack him up. Yeah, that was Michael Cohen, right?
Right. And that, so we've got that, we've got the Trump org trial, which is up in the air, but honestly, I have the chart for the date it's supposed to start, and
Mm-hmm.
I will be really surprised if it is delayed. That's the case in which he sued the judge.
And that was the what date? Do you know?
The date that the trial is supposed to start is like the second or the third. Here we go, Trump org trial.
Right.
Second,
Letitia James, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's right around the corner.
And Mars will be on her sun. So like Mars in Libra, which is fighting for a justice
Justice. Yeah.
on her sun. So she's been gearing up for this for a long time. She will be
Wow.
ready.
Now we have a couple other people to look at that you said you have charts ready. Was it Rudy? Oh,
It's
Hunter.
Hunter and Rudy.
Hunter
Oh my
versus
goodness.
Rudy.
All right. Now
Step right up.
I have avoided talking about Hunter online because he is like a magnet for the trolls, but
Oh my goodness.
let's just say filing suit this week against Rudy Giuliani and a number of other people because of all of the laptop
Yeah.
allegations. This full moon on Friday is on Hunter's Mars. He has Mars and
Fight.
Aries.
Yeah.
Do not think that this man is not capable of fighting.
He has Mars and
He,
Aries.
yes.
He's a fighter.
And he has Uranus exactly opposite it in Libra. Now, why is this important? Because his Mars, he has Mars and Aries in this opposition, and his Mars is sextiling his Rudy. So both of these planets, the Uranus and the Mars, two very less than subtle
Oh
influences
yeah.
going at Rudy's Sun and Uranus. Rudy has a very tight Sun Uranus conjunction. Hence, I'm this way, and now I'm going to be this way, and now I'm this way. This is how
I'll
America's
say
mayor could go. Yeah. So, I
most
mean,
extreme
Gemini.
example.
So, this is important.
Now,
And
just to recap, the Hunter's going after Rudy for the laptop lies, or
yes, yes. And several other attorneys who were involved in the whole thing.
right.
And so his also Hunter's Mars, his fighter planet, is exactly trying Rudy's Pluto.
Sounds like a
Now,
war.
yes,
It
it is a
does.
war. The god of war going after the god of death, but also the god of
Jeez.
crime. Crime.
The god of crime
So,
is Pluto? No.
yeah, Pluto
Yeah.
would be in charge of the really deep skullduggery stuff.
Right.
Yes. So, this isn't going to be one of those flash in the pan lawsuits. This is big.
He's gonna decimate Rudy.
This is what this looks like to me.
I don't know how I mean, how he doesn't really have any money left, does he?
No, and he hasn't paid the fines that he owes the two election
No,
workers out of Georgia.
because he
He
doesn't
hasn't
have it.
complied with, yeah, he hasn't complied with anything down there. And, but actually, things look as bad as all this looks right now. Astrologically, things look worse for Rudy in 2024.
I just don't see how he's gonna physically be able to endure what's coming. Rudy.
And that's where I was headed.
Yeah.
The impact on his health will be
He might
really
might not be long
horrible.
for this world. But we don't predict
Really.
death.
Well,
What's
let's
Pluto
see.
doing in 2024 for Rudy?
Alcohol will play a role. Alcohol has been playing a role. Saturn, which brings restriction, is moving into Rudy's house of health and daily routine. So he
Jeez.
may not have energy. He may not be free to move around. He may have unavoidable health issues that he really has to look at. And as Saturn moves more into the sign of Pisces, it is going to square or challenge that Sun Uranus combination that I just mentioned. I'm going to change, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So there'll be this grounding consequences,
Mm-hmm.
influence pressuring him. Now, he's been through this before. He went through this in 95, so people can look at what kind of personality change did he go through then? Was there a big divorce? I don't know. I don't know what happened then, but this one comes on the heels of a lot of oh, wait a minute. Okay, here's the
There's
one two
more.
here's
There's
the one
more.
two punch. Sorry, just
That's
notice this.
okay.
So as in early February, that's when like the piper's going to say, "You owe me, pay." And right before then, in the middle of January, Pluto in the sky is going to move back into Aquarius, and it's going to sit on Rudy's south node, which is old behaviors,
Hmm.
default mechanisms. So his network, he has it in Aquarius, his network may just not be there at all for him. But Pluto on your south node in the house of end of days, and then Saturn saying you must pay. He's not going to be walking around.
No, I see confinement. He's going to be incarcerated, and I feel like this is my psychic impression. I feel like he's been so addicted to alcohol for so many years. His brain is pickled, his liver is pickled, and he being incarcerated means obviously no alcohol. I can't even imagine the withdrawals that he would go through. I mean, it
It
just
would be
seems like he's
it'd
going to
be
go because of
it'd
the
be pretty
incarceration.
pretty bad by mid to late February next year.
So it seems like it falls into, the schedule of what we're seeing here that he would be incarcerated. I don't know if it would happen that quickly, but it's a few months away.
Well, it also could be that he's just simply not capable of being out and about.
Yeah. So that could be a health issue, which I also pick up just to flip back to Trump a little bit. I mean, they're all like the same energy. I
They're so
don't
similar.
I don't see Trump being able to be functional mentally. I don't. That impression is so strong. I don't think he's going to be able to access his cognitive function.
And I'm going to say that the solar eclipse that I talked about, the one that's happening on the 14th, the one that's on his Jupiter, is going to ricochet into his disruptor planet,
Hmm.
which is what rules his house of health.
Yeah. So Trump has he's going to have some issue. I mean, I feel this so strongly that he's going to come to a point where we're all going, oh yeah, he lost it. He's done.
And here's one other piece. That solar eclipse is going to be on the doorway to his house of communication. So it's like everything he takes in,
Oh,
how his
right.
brain works, how information comes out.
Yeah.
So there could be like a short circuiting that becomes
Yeah.
no going back.
That's what I'm seeing. It feels like a mental breakdown. It could even be like a stroke or something, it could be something like an event or just all of a sudden we see, I mean, I'm not a medical professional. I don't know really like intimately the signs of dementia and all that, but I definitely do see what I think are signs of dementia showing up now. Because you know what he said about Joe Biden started World War II and he thinks that he ran against Obama. Trump thinks he ran against Obama.
Well, he brought Jeb Bush
And he
into the
thought, yeah, and he
discussion.
thinks Jeb Bush was president. I mean, it's like, hello. And this is what the Republican Party has for their nominee. I mean, it's not official yet, right? But everyone's assuming. We
Are,
don't
aren't
think
they?
so. Watch us. Don't watch the mainstream news. We'll tell you, right? I think it's over for Trump. When I hear people say, "Oh, well, when he's running against Biden," I'm like, "What? Well, it doesn't even compute for me."
He is in a minefield between now and next April. A
Yeah,
minefield, and
yeah,
and it's not going to stop detonating. And when he gets through this gauntlet, I've said it before, that's when Uranus has the wrecking ball go across his midheaven, which is his, like, how he interfaces with the rest of the world,
right.
his public, the entry point for his public life.
Yeah, he's not. He's gonna fail to make sense anymore. If I mean, way more than before. It's
Well, I
gonna
think
be like,
everything blows up
yeah,
by
it's a
April.
concentration of chaos the next few months for Trump is what I see.
Yeah, I would not argue with that
Yeah,
at all.
so that all checks out astrologically. Um,
Yes.
we have a few minutes left, and we have time to dive into somebody else, something else. Do we want to look at the Supreme Court? Clarence Thomas is,
We can look at Thomas.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Well,
not
you
not
want
the
to
whole
look at
court, but
Sheldon Whitehouse?
yeah, man, what a hero. He's got the right last name.
Yes,
What
he does.
an amazing genius, just investigator. Just he's really playing a lot of roles there.
Let's say,
Orator.
all right,
We love White House,
Whitehouse is a Libra and his
of
sun
course.
is conjunct Neptune, very closely conjunct Neptune. So he's a very strong idealistic streak.
Hmm.
Also, the law is his religion,
It seems like it.
basically. Basically. Um, he also, the Venus retrograde this summer set off, reactivated a signature he has that was in place in a year and a half around his birth in the mid 50s, when Jupiter and Pluto were traveling together at the end of um, Leo. This man is wired for dealing with huge amounts of power,
Hmm.
also possibly even corruption. And this is in the 11th house of organizations, which represents Congress. So something happened. I mean, he's been saying things for a long time. He has been a
Yeah.
force for a long time. But this summer, the consolidation of his own role and
Hmm.
the elevation of his own power
Yeah.
ramped up enormously. And maybe I should say effectiveness more than
Yeah.
what you might think of as power. So the eclipse in October is pretty close to his sun. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with his role. How, does he get an upgrade? Is there an uptick in what he's up to? The lunar eclipse at the end of the month, the Halloween eclipse, is squaring, it's demanding action from his disruptor, ingenious, let's do things different ways planet, which is Uranus, in his career house. So he's supposed to be somebody who's saying, let's look at this a different way. Let's
Mm-hmm.
look at this a different way. Let's look at this a different way. And there will be
Yeah.
something that breaks open involving uh, the corruption investigations that he's been doing. And then next year, once Pluto goes back to the very beginning of Aquarius, and it's there from about January 10th or so, mid January into early September, it goes across his Chiron. So some part of him has always felt like a bit of an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
People who have Chiron in Aquarius, I have seen, have this strange sense that maybe they were dropped into the wrong planet. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, there'll be something about, oh, wait a minute, the world has caught up to me.
Right.
That could
Right.
happen when Pluto moves
Is that
across
a good
that.
thing? Is that a good thing or?
I think so.
Yeah, seems like it.
Uh,
When's
yeah,
his birthday? Did you say he's a Libra?
yeah, October 20th is his birthday.
Okay, so he's got a, like in the middle of two eclipses birthday
Yes, his
this
birthday will
year.
fall in the eclipse gauntlet. And next October, the eclipse in October of 2024, the Libra eclipse,
That was another
will
one.
happen on his Mercury, on his planet of communication. Um, I don't think he's
Crazy.
getting voted out. I don't think he's
No,
getting
he won't be
voted
voted
out.
out. No, I don't get that at all. So we have a couple minutes to look at how that relates to Clarence Thomas.
Okay,
The
dokie.
fate of the Clarence.
Now, let's just reiterate what's been happening.
Yeah, it
In
bears
the
repeating.
sky with him, he has the same power signature that Matt Gaetz has, but in different signs.
Hmm.
Okay. He's got Saturn and Pluto in the sign of Leo, which would make he would like hook up with really wealthy people who perhaps play up to, like him being a
Oh
star,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
Yeah. You
kind
know,
of thing.
Clarence loves that. You know, he loves that.
Well, the Venus retrograde this summer brought an awful lot to light
Hmm.
about that and about specific partnerships, plural, multiple
Yeah.
partnerships with wealthy people and money flowing in a huge way. This in October, Mars in the sky is going to be in Scorpio, which is, undercurrents. We're going to
Oh yeah.
research all the skullduggery stuff. And it's going to be going across his south node uh, in the ninth house on his midheaven. Let me translate that. There will be things being dredged up about his corruption.
Hmm. I'm sensing
Corruption on the court. You
yeah.
think, could there be more? Yes,
Yeah.
there could be more. And that eclipse, the Halloween eclipse, the one on the
Mm-hmm.
28th, is on his north node in Taurus in the fourth house, which is his home, his family relationships.
Oh.
Uh, so maybe there's something more about property. So maybe there's something more about women or a
Yeah.
woman,
Yeah, I
which
was just
then
about to say that. Yeah.
leads to next year when Pluto moves back into Aquarius. It's going to do it's going to hit two things. It's going to go and sit on his moon, and we do have a timed chart for him.
Hmm.
His moon rules his house of health. His moon also represents his own emotional needs, like how they're met. It also represents his wife.
Yeah, right.
So all of those things in one big clump, inescapable for 9 months next year. This really strong power issues coming up, coming to light, and they're going to have something to do with stuff that comes up and out
Mm-hmm.
now. Now, yeah, I mean, I understand like somebody is his mother still alive? Is that possible? There's a house that it
I
was
would,
bought for his
I
mother
would doubt it because she was elderly, I think, when the house was
when
bought for
it
her.
happened. So, but there's something here about money involving a woman in his home, maybe, then health issues. And right now, Saturn in the sky has been flowing really, really easily he's got um, the sun and Mercury really close together and Venus really close together at the beginning of Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
This is one,
About
he
home.
could be a very nurturing, sweet, and sensitive person, or he could
Mm-hmm.
just be pissy, which
Yeah,
is, I think, what we have seen.
definitely.
And there is a shieldedness that goes with that.
Yeah,
Also, the moon in Aquarius has a shieldedness that
yeah,
goes with that, and maybe a bit of arrogance. And he's got Pluto rising. So I'm sorry, he's got Capricorn rising. So he has been opaque,
yeah,
but now the opacity is going away.
yeah. I can see that Aquarian. And you said he has moon in Aquarius,
Yeah.
where he's kind of like, can't, people like that are hard to read. I mean, they're not impossible to read, but it takes a little more effort.
So big stuff. Another target time to watch for October of 2024. Really big turning point. Now, I don't know if that's when the elections are going to like really change things for him,
Mm-hmm.
but it's possible he could leave the court before then. In fact, I'm surprised he hasn't been forced out
Yeah.
because the ruler of his house of health is also the ruler of how he spends his time on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be, change of schedule, not doing what you've been doing,
Yeah.
leaving your job, but
Interesting.
something big gets just washed out, wiped out, bam,
He's
by
off. He'll be
October of
off.
2024.
Yeah, he'll be off the court. I feel like he'll be done next year. My sense was early in the spring, and also my sense too is something of the illicit affair or something with a woman or assault or something of a sexual nature. And when I think about it, we see this sort of crumbling of Clarence Thomas. I when I think about it, if he were found guilty of like a sexual assault or something like that, I'm just throwing that out there, then he would have to go to trial, right? And I'm wondering if that might be part of what
I
we're
will,
seeing.
it is possible
Mhm.
that October brings some rather clinical information to light
Mhm.
with Venus in actually October and November, with Venus in Virgo moving across his Mars in Virgo, and the revelations. I mean, it's entirely okay.
It's not
Entertainment
out of the
person.
question. I mean, the Anita
Entertainment
Hill could come
purposes
back.
only. No, well, no, he could have another residence with somebody there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be consistent with some of this, and information about it coming to light as and again,
Right. Right. I could see
eclipses are
that.
not single day events, so it could
Yeah.
be over the next 6 months that stuff comes out, but we haven't heard the end of who his special friends are.
Yeah, that's true. There's a bunch of billionaires.
But it might not just be billionaires.
Right. Right. The plot thickens. To be continued. We're over time. There's just so much. Well, thank you, thank you. Once again, before we go, boy, that was a lot. My head is totally full. I'm gonna go listen and process. And I still have to go back and listen to the last one and process. So everyone, go back and listen to what Kathy has said over our past several. We've been doing this for months now. Spirit Talk
Mhm.
podcasts, where we take a look at the political scene and what's going on astrologically for all the yahoos and the good people too. So, if you want to reach me for a psychic reading, it's psychicanetdion.com and subscribe to my channel and all that good stuff. And Kathy, once more,
EmpowermentUnlimited.net, and certainly help yourself to my eclipse talk. It's only $30, and it will put the eclipses in the context of what we've lived through since the mid 20th century. So you could see
yeah.
like what you've been through before. And my YouTube channel is Professional Aquarian. And if you want a reading, it's either going to be before the 14th or it's going to be at the end of the month. So there.
And the
Or,
next time we can meet is perhaps before the new
well,
moon.
we'll have to
We'll coordinate
for
and
the
we'll
new
let you
moon.
know
Oh,
the new
oh,
moon.
new moon I can work. Okay. Yeah.
So look for us Tuesday. I don't have a calendar in front of me. The
I
week of
can.
the new moon solar eclipse, the second week in October. I think it's
Yep.
the
So that's
14th, right? That week of the 14th. So it'll be like
the week of the 14th. So let's see what day it is. That would
the
be
Tuesday.
the 14th is a Saturday, so it could be Tuesday the 10th.
So look for us Tuesday the 10th. I'll remind everyone too at 3 if that checks out with Andrew. I think he's adjusted to our schedule. I think.
Yeah, it's the one at the end of the month that will have to be on a different day. Because
All right. And one more thing is October 11th, I'm doing a tarot class from a medieval castle. Go to psychicanetdion.com to find out more about that. And we are way over time. Sorry, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Namaste. Bye.
I